in my experiences, when you, like, actually heal, right? When you actually put in the work to, like, go through all the emotions, you know, push through all of the conditioning that you've been fed that has led you to believe that you can't feel certain things, that certain things are bad. You know, when you take the energy, anger, for instance, and you put it on the right object, you know, in some cases it's kind of like you're going against everything that you've been taught that you're not supposed to do, you know, and actually doing the work is very challenging. It really is. Like, actually showing up to your emotions and being like, all right, well, you've knocked on the door plenty of times. I'll listen now. What do we need to do, right? And then maybe you go into a rage episode. Maybe you actually, you know, go into one of those rooms where you break shit. Maybe you know, imagine that the person that hurt you is standing in front of you and you say everything that you've always needed to say to them. You know? Doing the work, which means healing, is not a cookie cutter one size fits all thing. It's different for everyone. I just got out of a session of crying my eyes out. I I've been so invalidated throughout my entire life. I really have. I've been so led to believe that I'm unworthy. I've been so led to believe that I'm, you know, subhuman and everything. That I deserve to be treated like shit. But it's fascinating because one of the most important parts of healing, and this is something that's challenging to look at for sure, but you can look at other people and be like, oh, well, it's not me, it's them. It's both. But in this case, it's me. In relationships, the reason why I've gotten hurt, I mean, I'm not here to excuse other people's actions, and I'm not here to excuse my actions, but repeating patterns, you know, that you learned from childhood, it's a very real thing. It really is. If you learn a belief of unworthiness and you consistently choose people that reinforce that belief, you know, you're repeating a pattern. Maybe somebody early on in your life led you to believe, through whatever reason, that you're unworthy, right? And so you just continue to choose people, whether it's a partner, whether it's a friend, whether it's a boss, whether it's a, you know, whatever it is, they reinforce that belief. And so it's like the root of healing, the ground foundational work of healing is to recognize that you, in this case, I, myself, choose people that are, you know, emotionally unavailable. It's a big one right there, which comes along with emotional immaturity. I don't think that you can really be emotional. I don't think that you can really be emotionally available if you are emotionally immature. I just don't think that it's real. I don't think it exists. So yeah, there's that, you know, and like, I think that the reason why healing is so challenging, and I've been told by a professional that it's a path less traveled, like actually doing the work on yourself. It is so easy to stay the same, even if the same is unhappy. Like, imagine if you were to wake up and consciously choose unhappiness every single day for the rest of your life. You know? Like, imagine that. Like, who in their right mind would wake up and be like, yeah, Unhappiness sounds good. Let's do it. I'll eat that shit again. Like, no. That's absurd, right? But comfort and familiarity and, you know, the same neurochemical hits that come off with, and it's not just that, there's fucking massive dynamics and structures that, when I say that, I mean mental and psychological structures that keep us locked inside of the same fucking thing over and over again, right? And that's just the reality of it, right? We play the same roles over and over again, get the same emotional hits over and over again, even if they're not like that rewarding. We're just used to the same familiar things over and over again. That's just the way that it is, right? Yeah, doing the work is fucking challenging, it really is. And I find myself doing things that I didn't used to do. Like, I'm actually releasing anger now. I find myself ballistically crying my eyes out. I find myself, you know, bloody murder screaming my brains out. I've lost my voice multiple times. I really have. I find myself beating the shit out of a pillow. I used to be uncomfortable with anger. I used to be uncomfortable with these kinds of things. But now I'm starting to be uncomfortable with people that are uncomfortable with these kinds of things. And it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting territory to be in. Because, like, I don't know. I want to bring the movie. I'm not going to say anything about the movie, and I do highly recommend the movie. It's probably my favorite movie. Healing is kind of like, or learning what fucked you up and then healing is kind of like watching the movie Fight Club. Again, I'm not going to say anything about the movie. Highly recommend it. Once you see it, it changes your life. At least in my opinion. It does. I mean, you could say that about any movie, of course. You could say that about anything. Once you really start to look at yourself and you start to do the work and heal and everything, it really starts to change your life. It really does. It starts to transform everything. You start to see things differently. I would argue that you don't really look at things the same as you used to, you know. Boundaries are a very big part of this, and just like recognizing that people are allowed to fucking be themselves and they don't need to be controlled by you in a relationship, and you don't need to control other people in a relationship. You can just let people be who the fuck they are, and that's just the reality of it, you know. And that's it. It's that simple. I have spent my life trying to change people. I have. That's fact. Like, if you look back at my relationships, and I don't think it was just with women either. I think it's also been with, just friends. And I don't want to do that anymore. There are so many ways that I've lived that I just don't want to live anymore. I mean, there are ways that I've lived that I just don't want to live those ways anymore. That's what I'm talking about. And really, the last thing that I want to touch base on here is that in childhood, like I was saying before, everyone comes out of childhood with some level of disfigurement, some level of, marring, scathing. It's really all about the development of the ego, right? This is Freudian psychology. There's the id, which comes first. I'll put that over here, actually. I think it's flipped. The id, the ego, and the superego, right? A lot of people that end up getting arrested development at a very, very early age, I'm talking in infancy and everything, they end up getting caught up in id shit. Impulsive. They want to fuck and destroy everything. They want pleasure and destruction. A lot of people actually don't get, like, really healthy ego development. And so what ends up happening is that patterns end up being repeated, right? And the challenging thing there is to wake up from the pattern repetition, the repetition compulsion, the the tendency to compulsively repeat a pattern. That's really what it's all about. But the fascinating thing is, it's really just based in comfort and familiarity. So, like, if a more conscious version of you, which would end up being the person that is healed, would look at you in repetition compulsion, see what it is that you're doing, and being like, dude, you're just on autopilot. That's all that you're doing. You're just repeating the same thing over and over again. You think it's the best thing in this world, but you have no idea until you really open your eyes and you see the fucking psychological devastation that is occurring as a result of your need to continue the comfort and the familiarity and continue to reopen this wound and to allow yourself through different means to fuck it and let it rot and allow other people to do the same. You know, any conscious person would look at that and be like, no. And that's the difference between, like, just remaining asleep on autopilot and repetition compulsion and, like, actually opening your fucking eyes. No shame, no guilt, I'm not trying to be aggressive or hard on anybody, including myself. But there's a clear difference in lifestyle and living and feeling and seeing and being. And that's just the reality of it.